Greetings, adventurers. Are you tired of the same old Dungeons and Dragons campaigns? Do you crave a new level of excitement and adventure? Well, look no further. Join us on this quest as we explore potential house rules that will take your D&D experience to the next level. In this video, we delve into 5 exciting topics. Well, technically 25. Critical hits and misses, rest and recovery, travel and exploration, NPC relationships and interactions, and dynamic potions. With these house rules, you'll learn how to make critical hits more intense, rest and recovery more tactical, and travel and exploration more immersive. NPC interactions more fascinating, and potions more meaningful. So grab your party, hone your blades, and get ready for an epic adventure with these incredible house rules for Dungeons and Dragons. Remember, while some of these rules may sound familiar or be specific to a certain campaign, they can add new dynamic and challenges to your gameplay. So don't hesitate and try them out and elevate your D&D experience to new heights. Critical hits and misses. The critical hit and miss system in D&D is a well-known mechanic that adds a level of excitement and unpredictability to combat encounters. However, the standard rules for critical hits and misses can sometimes feel lackluster or too random. No one likes dealing minimum damage on their critical hits. So here are some ways to modify the critical hit miss system to make it more interesting and engaging. By default, a critical hit doubles the damage of the attack. However, you could make critical hits even more devastating by allowing them to deal maximum damage plus the damage rolled. This would make critical hits feel more satisfying and impactful, while still being balanced by the rarity of rolling a natural 20. Critical miss consequences. While rolling a natural 1 on an attack roll is a critical miss, the standard rules don't specify what happens when this occurs. You could add additional consequences for critical misses, such as the attacker dropping their weapon, losing their balance, or taking damage themselves. This would add an extra layer of risk and challenge to combat encounters, as players would need to be mindful of potential consequences of rolling critical misses. Critical hit table. Another option is to use a critical hit table that lists different effects based on the type of attack or weapon used. For example, a critical hit with a sword might cause the target to become stunned, while a critical hit with a bow might knock the target prone. This would add an extra level of variety and excitement to combat encounters, as players would be eager to see what effect their critical hit has on the target. Critical miss table. Similar to the critical hit table, you could use a critical miss table that lists different consequences based on the type of attack or the weapon used. For instance, a critical miss with a spell might cause the caster to lose a spell slot, while a critical miss with a bow might result in a player accidentally hitting an ally. This would add an extra level of danger and strategy to combat encounters, as players would need to be mindful of potential consequences of rolling a nat 1. Customized critical hits. Finally, you could allow players to customize the effects of their critical hits by choosing from a list of options or creating their own. For example, a player might choose to blind a target with a critical hit with a dagger, or knock the target prone with a critical hit with a mace. This would allow players to express their creativity and add a level of personalization to their character's combat abilities. Rest and recovery. Rest and recovery are crucial aspects of D&D, as they allow players to regain health, spell slots, and other resources after combat encounters or other taxing situations. However, the rules for resting and recovery can sometimes be a little too lenient or too restrictive, depending on the play style and perspective of the group. Here are some ways to modify the rules to make resting and recovery more challenging or more rewarding. Safe resting locations. In the standard rules, characters can take a short or a long rest almost anywhere, as long as they have some measure of safety and security. However, you could require characters to find a safe and secure location, such as an inn, a hidden cave, or a well-guarded campsite. This would add an extra layer of challenge and risk, as characters may need to explore and scavenge for resources before they can take a rest. Limited resting resources. Besides finding a safe location, characters may need to gather resources such as food, water, and firewood in order to take a rest. Depending on the environment and the circumstances, these resources may be sparse or difficult to find, forcing characters to ration their supplies and plan their rest carefully. This could add tension and realism to the game, as characters need to balance their need for rest with their need for survival. Environmental factors. Depending on the environment and circumstances, resting in certain locations may come with additional benefits or penalties. For example, resting in a warm, dry cave may provide a bonus to constitution checks, while resting in a cold, damp dungeon may impose a penalty on constitution checks. Similar, resting in a location with abundant natural resources may provide a bonus to certain skill checks or saving throws, while resting in a barren wasteland may impose a penalty. Interrupting rests. Even if characters find a safe and secure location to rest, there may be external factors that can interrupt or disrupt their rest. For example, wandering monsters, hostile NPCs, or environmental hazards may threaten the character's rest and force them to defend themselves or even flee. This could add an extra layer of danger and unpredictability to the game, as characters can never be sure if their rest will be interrupted or not. Creative resting solutions. Finally, you could encourage players to come up with creative solutions for resting and recovery, such as building makeshift shelters, creating healing potions or salves, or using spells and abilities to create safe zones or barriers. This would reward players for thinking outside the box and using their skills and abilities in novel ways, and would add an extra layer of strategy and creativity to the game. Travel and exploration. In D&D, travel and exploration can be just as important as combat encounters and role-playing interactions. However, the standard rules for travel can sometimes be tedious and repetitive, involving long stretches of time where nothing happens. Here are some ways to modify the rules for travel and exploration to make them more engaging and exciting for players. Encounters and events. One way to add more excitement to travel is to include encounters or events that only occur during the journey. These could be combat encounters with bandits or monsters, social encounters with other travelers and locals, or even unexpected natural disasters or weather. These encounters and events could be planned ahead by the DM or generated randomly, and could provide a variety of challenges and rewards for the players. Travel planning and preparation. Another way to make travel more engaging is to incorporate a system that allows characters to plan and prepare for their journey. This could involve gathering information about the route and potential hazards, stocking up on supplies and equipment, and hiring guides or guards to accompany the party. This would add an extra layer of strategy and decision-making to the game, as players would need to consider the cost and benefits of different travel options and making informed decisions. Exploration and discovery. In addition to encounters and events, exploring and discovery can be a rewarding aspect of travel in D&D. You could include hidden treasures or landmarks that would be found by the characters who take the time to explore their surroundings, or incorporate puzzles or riddles that must be solved to progress. This would encourage players to be more attentive and curious during their travels, and would allow them to uncover hidden secrets and treasures. Narrative and storytelling. Finally, you could use travel as an opportunity to develop a narrative and storytelling of the game. As characters journey from place to place, they could encounter NPCs, witness events that tie into the overarching plot or theme of the campaign. This would allow players to feel more immersed in the game world and invested in the story, as they would see the consequences of their actions and the impact they're having on the world around them. Resource management. One aspect of travel that's often overlooked is resource management. Characters must eat, drink, and rest to maintain their health and their abilities, and this can become a factor during extended journeys. To make travel more challenging and engaging, you could modify the rules to require characters to manage their resources carefully. For example, characters could become fatigued or suffer penalties if they go too long without resting, or they would become too hungry or dehydrated if they don't have enough food and water. This would add an extra layer of realism and strategy to the game, as players would need to balance the need for rest and sustenance with the desire to make progress on their journey. Additionally, you could use this system to introduce new types of items and equipment, such as portable tents, water filtration devices, or preserved rations, and that could help characters survive and thrive during their travels. NPC relationships and interactions. In D&D, NPCs are important characters that provide quest information and assistance to players. However, the rules for NPC relationships and interactions can be limited. You could modify these rules to make an NPC's relationships and interactions more meaningful and dynamic. For example, you could use a reputation system that tracks a player's interactions with different factions or individuals. Or you could add romance or social inquiry to the game. Reputation system. One way to make NPCs relationships and interactions more meaningful is to use a reputation system. This system tracks the player's interactions with different factions or individuals and affects how these groups or individuals perceive and interact with the players. Positive interactions could result in better prices for goods and services, access to exclusive quests, and other benefits, while negative interactions could lead to higher prices, reduced access to resources, and even hostility. This system could add an extra layer of strategy and decision making for players as they weigh the consequences of their actions on their reputation. Romance. By this, I don't mean the bard and the dragon joke. Adding romance to the game can also make NPC relationships more meaningful and dynamic. Players could develop romantic relationships with NPCs, which could lead into additional quests, benefits, or even penalties, depending on whose relationship were managed. For example, a romantic partner may be more willing to help a player, but may also become jealous or angry if they feel neglected or mistreated. Social intrigue. Another way to make NPC relationships more dynamic is to add social intrigue to the game. This could involve political maneuvering, espionage, and other forms of intrigue that players must navigate to achieve their goals. Players could engage in diplomacy, persuasion, and deception to gain the trust of NPCs and uncover their secrets. Non-combat interactions. Finally, you could modify the rules to encourage non-combat interactions with NPCs. For example, players could engage in activities like gambling, drinking, storytelling with NPCs, which could result in rewarding or penalties depending on the outcome of those interactions. This could add more variety to the game and encourage players to explore different aspects of their character personalities and interests. Dynamic potions. Potions have long been a staple of magical healing in D&D. But what if there was more to them just as a simple sip and immediate healing? With a few house rules, the use of potions could become more dynamic and strategic part of combat encounters. Potion identity. Not all potions are labeled and identified clearly. Players may need to use a trial and error or other methods to determine the effects of an unknown potion, risking negative consequences if they guess wrong. Potion contamination. Some potions may be contaminated with impurities or other harmful substances. Players who drink a contaminated potion may suffer negative effects such as poisoning, hallucinations, or even mutations. The DM can determine the likelihood of a potion contamination and the severity of its effects. Potion mixing. Players can attempt to combine 2 or more potions to create new effects, but must make a DC check using the proficiency bonus and the spellcasting modifier of the potion's creator. Failure could result in unintended consequences or a wasted potion. Potion mixing failure. When attempting to mix 2 or more potions to create a new effect, failure can result in unpredictability and potentially dangerous. Players who fail their potion making check could suffer negative effects such as damage, poisoning, or magical backlash. Potion action choice. Lastly, giving the players the choice between using their action to drink a potion and heal for the maximum amount of hit points the potion can restore, or they can use their bonus action to roll for the healed amount. This house rule allows for a strategic choice between guaranteed healing or the possibility of healing based on the dice roll, while still maintaining the balance of potion use and combat encounters. Thank you for watching, adventurers. We hope you found these potential house rules for Dungeons & Dragons helpful in enhancing your gameplay experience. Don't forget to let us know in the comments if you use any similar house rules in your campaigns, and share this video with your DM and your fellow adventurers. With these rules, your critical hits and misses will be more intense, your rest and recovery more strategic and rewarding, and your travel and exploration more engaging and exciting. So get ready to dive into your next campaign armed with these new house rules, and let your imagination run wild. And if you want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing to our channel so you never miss out on any future Dungeons & Dragons adventures we have in store for you. And always remember, every stroke of the brush and swing of the blade adds character to your miniature.